Before I start this video, during January there was an unfortunate event that happened during January, and it also happened while I was still working on the SSO End of the Year awards. And that was the news of Violet Flower Garden unfortunately passed away, which was announced on social media on January 25th, a few days after her death, which was January 17th. So before I start January the month, I want to announce that I will be making a tribute video for her, which will go up before February the month, since I want to make something to honor her, considering how I've watched her growing up. Even though she is actually, I think, a few years older than me or so, I am not 100% sure, but she's in my age range group. So I know that's late, really late, in fact, but I want to do it just out of respect for the huge impact that she not only left on me, but also the community. I also would like to say that her obituary was also leaked as well, so please do not spread it around since it does have personal info about her, and please don't use her death for clout, shit on her death, or use it for social gain. That's very disrespectful. Before I move on, let's have a moment of silence for Violet before getting into the video. Rest in peace, Violet, and thank you for doing everything that you did for not just a part of YouTube, but the whole entire SSO community. Thank you for being an inspiration to all of us. Thank you.
And the new year's almost here. 10.
Here's the thing, babe. Some people look at New Year's and feel like, new year, new me. And I respect that trend. But I like to keep it real. So I'm going to be the same honest asshole at 12:01 that I was at 11:59.
Well, okay then. Happy New Year to my little honest.
Happy New Year, babe.
Bloody hell, here I go again.
Hello everybody, my name is Moon, and welcome back to my channel. So, as of today, whenever this comes out, after a long-ass time of hacking away at the 2022 SSO End of the Year Awards, which you should probably go watch, by the way, if you want to recap on 2022.
Where's my award for Best Actor? I mean Actress. Thank you. Shit plastic.
After finishing that, it is now time to start Season 2 of the SSO Roadmap Reviews. So what better way to start by doing January of the month? And January had a lot that happened this month, and I also do like to say here, I'm also sorry if I sound really tired. I've been very emotionally and mentally worn out. So here I am still doing videos. I'll also talk about this a little more into the video, so it will probably be around like the end, but yeah. Before we get started, I have a Ko-Fi, so if you want to support me further, check it out on there. To find my Ko-Fi, check out the link in the description, or check out the link in the pinned comment. So without further ado, let's get on to week 1, which is the last week of the Christmas event. So, in this week was the last bit of the Christmas event, which was essentially just one more final hurrah for the snow went away. It was good while you were here, snow. So the main things that were added back for this final week was that the blizzards returned, thankfully, and they also had the return of the Windfells and the Nixies. The only changes to the blizzards was just having a chance to do them in other areas like Everwind Fields where Landon is, and doing it in Firegrove. But besides that, that's about it. As for the advent calendar,
Oh my god, bro. Oh, hell no, man. What the fuck, man?
Jesus Christ. It was still shitty and just about the same, so it's not really affecting the score because we already discussed in December the month that this advent calendar was shitty. This was just the icing on the cake. Like, oh my lord. The only good things from the rest of the calendar was getting racing horseshoes, a few pieces of good looking clothing, the star coin code, and some other shit, but for the most part, most of the rest of this shit that was in this calendar just wasn't good. I think it just goes to show they really should have made the advent calendar calendar worth opening, but instead this was a shitty as fuck calendar that you feel like that's just sloppily put together. It mainly felt like someone forgot to do it last minute and just shoved some random shit in there and then call it a day. I think this post by, I'm so sorry if I butchered this name, Guadalupe Dolphin Feather. Please tell me I got this right. Otherwise known as Lupayas. Alright, I'm so sorry. She made brilliant points on how the advent calendar should have been. Yes, some things like the 1,000 star coins part is a bit much for those thinking it'll affect SSO's $40+ million annual amount or whatever the fuck how much it was again, but it's enough to let someone at least get a horse they want for Christmas, or just get enough clothes that they want for Christmas. The little things of giving more horse XP, more food to actually help with caring for are a huge amount of horses, and also having better stat clothing, and those things can also help make the advent calendar feel more like an advent calendar. So if y'all remember from December the month last season, I stated that I was gonna add on any points to the score if the final week changes it, or if it doesn't, or if it just got worse. And since the original score was, I believe, a 5.75 out of 10, because of how the last week gave a boost in getting more tokens to unlock everything in a timely manner, unless if you just didn't really get on that much at all, the score is now a 6.75 out of 10, making this probably the highest ranking event I've ever ranked on this channel. This event could have been better had they actually had more time slots for the blizzards, new activities that aren't recycled in the Northern Light rotation, the return of fun activities like the Penguin Choir but improved, and some other things would make this event probably better. As of right now, as I stated, this is the highest score I ever gave an event, so good job, Christmas. You blew all the other events out of the water in 2022.
No! Oh!
That's it for the first week, so now let's get on to weeks 2 and 3, which is not much. These 2 weeks are short, so to get them out of the way, week 2 we had another Horses of Jorvik no one really gives a damn about, and we also had discounts on the Jorvik Warmbloods and the Trackners, so you could have bought them in week 2. As for week 3, we had 6 new color variations of horses, a small survey on chance which I didn't know about until I actually wrote this script, and a story snack. First, let's just get the story snack out of the way. To put this in the most simplest terms of what the story snack was, all it was just doing like we did in the last main quest, which is where you know how you had to fertilize the sapling. Yeah, you're just doing the same shit again, and then on the side there's like some dialogue from the characters. It's just nothing that important. It was like 3 lines of dialogue, nothing really to write home about, and plus this also was like 2 to 3 minutes.
Disgusted, I am revolted, I dedicate my entire life to our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, and this is the thanks I get?
As for the coat variations, we got a nice batch, so like the last time I did the coat variations last season, let's break them down. First, let's start with the Chimera / Mosaic Fin Horse. Fin horses are cute, but are usually at an okay 7 out of 10 for me. The copy-pasted Frisian gates just look better on this horse. Crappy, but it was better. And the coat ranges are usually fine, besides a few of the normal coats just looking like mud and shit. And of course, if y'all remember from the docu-series, it said the mane still looks like bacon strips, and there's still some bacon strips to get from the breakfast diner.
Boy, if you don't...
As for the Chimera coat color, I like it. It's arranged nicely and I think it's cute and unique compared to other pictures of the Chimera horses I've seen before in other parts of media. I think the reason why I like it is because of how the colors work out for me with the way they're arranged, and also how it works with the white markings. And also, this was a heavily requested coat because people found this in spoiler videos back in the day, so thank God it did not get the treatment of the Black Rubicano where we literally shot ourselves if it was gonna get turned to an NPC horse. Thank God it's not an NPC horse. I do plan on getting this one and some other Fin horses when I can, so it's a win for me. Next we have 2 Tennessee walking horses, a bay and a silver black one. Please correct me if I'm wrong on this coat, but both of these are hot. And as y'all know, I praised these horses a lot, and I don't think I gave them a rating because I think I was once again just very busily praising the shit out of these horses. But I would rate the Tennessee walking horses a 9 out of 10. Besides the fact that I forgot to put the rating in there, I really love both of these coats, and I would take them home in a heartbeat. Just when you're only saving on Star Queen allowance, you can only buy so much. It's okay.
Weird, buddy.
You're weird!
Anyways, then we have these two new American paint horses. I don't know if I gave them a rating either or not, but I don't think I ever did, so I also gave them a 9 out of 10. These coats are very cute, especially the black penguin, which is probably my favorite out of the two. Mans is very handsome, and for the brown bay paint one, it's a very unique one. It's cute. Does the brown one look like someone had a bird shit on it midway? Yes. But is it still hot to me? Also yes.
There was like there was a lot of food. I see, ¿verdad? Tirado todo, like everywhere. And then the seagulls started circling up to the food. And then I looked up on accident. And it shitted on my eye.
Finally, we have the Dapple Gray Belgian Warmblood, and oh boy, this one is probably the most controversial coat out of this whole batch. And let me tell you why. For starters, in the spoilers, it was just a straight up gray horse with the blaze making it look like Conrad, and it also had some stockings on it, and there was just a bit of an uproar on how it should have been a Dapple Gray, whereas there were still people that also liked it. And lo and behold, a bit later, it was changed to a Dapple Gray. I do gotta say though, the Dapples just look a bit airbrushed compared to other Dapple Gray coats in this game, so I think that's my only gripe that I have with it. And also, white markings don't really bother me that much on horses anyway. I know people talk about how they don't like white markings just on the horse. They don't really bother me. I think it looks fine. Besides this, I like this coat a lot, and even if it didn't get turned into a Dapple Gray, I also like the all gray white blaze one as well. There's also still people wishing that it was still looking like Concord, which was understandable, but even then, I think SSO just didn't want similar looking horses, or God knows what. So I believe the score I gave the Belgians was a 6 out of 10 in the November roadmap review, and it's still staying a 6 out of 10, since they're still an 8 for me. They got a couple of codes that I like and want, but still, they could be better animation-wise for the breed and as well as some other aspects. For the most part, this coat batch was a success. There was a huge social event that also happened during January as a whole, but because of how big it is, it's getting its own section, and I feel like since it's an important topic, regardless, it deserves its own section to be talked about. So before we do that section, let's move on to the final week of January. This week's sort of short, but not as short as the last two. So we have new tag that is probably very expensive. A story snack, which is the same damn thing again, except just a change in dialogue. There's nothing new about this quest. Come on, man. Like, oh my lord. Then we had an Instagram poll asking if you wanted the snow back, and the majority said yes, meaning next time SSO.
Don't remove snow so early when there's still a lot of winter left.
And lastly, we have the first new side quest of the year. This time, it's over the Jorvik Gazette, aka a newspaper company in Jarlheim. So, as usual, let's get on with the recap of this quest. Your rider one day runs into a journalist named Emaine Highcantle and her horse named Zahara, who wants to start up the Jorvik Gazette and drags you into helping her against your own will. First, she has you set up the sign for the office, and after that, talked about gossipship and what a good journalist is. She has you go pick up a paper delivery from Derek in Silverglade, and Derek gives you a whole history lesson on how back in the day the news was delivered on horseback and shit. So once you head back and tell Emaine, you both decide to use Derek's story and give him credit. After that, Emaine tasks you to set up flyers around your by just putting them in these red envelope slots about the Jorvik Gazette. Then Emaine has you go off to hunt more stories. First you go to Jacob Goldspur, where he talks about how his family has been breeding Arabians for generations. And if you want to go into it, you can also talk about his dead wife Evelyn. I personally didn't, since it's just also it just seemed disrespectful to pride and stuff like that, but if you wanted to, you can if you wanted to. You recon with Emaine on what you found, then she has you go get snacks from Stablebucks, aka this world's version of Starbucks, and after the snack break, I'm not even kidding, this woman gives you a fucking apple and a useless tea with milk. I'm sorry, but SSO, who even physically goes to cafes anymore and buys stuff there? That was like an old ass thing from like the golden age when we like used to role play at our cafes and shit. Nobody does that anymore. It's completely useless. You don't gain anything. Your character just stares at the food.
Why can't y'all just have belts added to the food? Come on, man, this has so much potential.
Anyways, after that, Amain has you go interview 3 random NPCs that haven't been used much that want to spill the tea. And when you come back, you decide which one had the best tea for the gossip section. Next, you do the same exact shit again, but this is for the headline story, aka the tea that drags people in to read your story and shit. You go through the whole thing again and pick which one was the best tea. After that, Amain has you get some pictures of your stables for the cover and shit, and once you're done with that, you're done! Just kidding, there's a day blocker for the first time in a while for a side quest. Day 2, you meet up with Amain again, except this time she's frazzled because she can't find her office keys that also has her lucky pen named Lucky. I can't. She called it like she was calling her fucking dog, bruh. So you go look for it, and then after not finding it on the floor or anywhere near the office, Amain has you go get Zahara's hay so she can de-stress since she was literally having a panic attack over the damn pen. After bringing the hay, Amain has you go check the lost and the found, and you either go around guessing where it is or just obviously go to the man, the myth, the legend, Gavin, and he gives you back the keys because he found it and put it in his lost and found box. Once you return the key, Amain has you hand deliver the papers in Jarlaheim, and then deliver the rest to Derek so he can distribute them everywhere else. And Derek is happy that his history lesson story got put into the newspaper for the first edition. After finishing that, Amain thanks you for everything, gives you a saddlebag and a paper pet, and that's it! Thank God. So, this side quest, I'm gonna be honest, y'all, I wasn't really feeling this quest. I really wasn't. This might be because since it's very much dialogue heavy and it wasn't as engaging, or the pure running from point A to B constantly for this quest. The only parts I liked was Derek's and Jacob's story for the newspaper. Besides that, most of everything else was forgettable, to be honest. Since this was for a new NPC being introduced into the world of Jorvik, it just mainly felt like this quest just wanted me to do my shit and get the hell out, instead of here's a fun quest about the Jorvik Gazette. It just really didn't tug at me, as I'm gonna have fond memories of this quest. It's just, once again, very forgetful, and I was honestly feeling bored at some parts. Like, I honestly was very tempted to just click through the whole damn thing and not really think about it. So, with that and how it was dragged out, I'm giving it a 3 out of 10. Yeah, we're starting low so far this year. I think what would have made me not as bored in this quest is actually have it start with a bang and going after a story or an event that's happening right now and not have an NPC tell you about it after it happened. For example, the one where Jamie tells you about how she almost burnt down her house for the 5 millionth time, you could have had Amain and yourself run into a fire brigade. You go to the same area. You could then interview the fire brigade after they burnt out the fire and shit. Or you could just run to a burglary happening in Jarlaheim and you both see someone catch the thief, get them arrested, decide and shit like that and interview that. Overall, it's an interesting idea, but due to how it was executed, it didn't really spark anything in me to like it besides a few small parts. And that's about it for the stuff in-game of SSO this month, so now let's move on to the stuff that happened outside of SSO No Spark besides the poll. So we had a lot happen this month. So first off, we have some news from another game developer. I can't remember the name off the top of my head, so I apologize, but Amy just put the person's name up there. Thank you. They made a post, I think around January, but technically close to that, saying that they're gonna be officially working on trying to work towards having breeding in the game. And a lot of people, including myself, are and still concerned about this update because as we all know with SSO's money-hungry issues, SSO is extremely money-hungry because if we look at how horses are priced as of now, they've mainly now been priced from 800 something to 900 something, very rarely 700 something. So basically, you're paying $32 for one singular horse. That's expensive. And already with the inflation in this game, this had us very scared because basically, as we all know, sometimes with breeding in games, they have RNG. And for those of you that play Alicia Online, you may also know that breeding over there involves RNG. If you don't know what RNG is, it's basically you get shit at random. So whenever you pair two horses together, you get a randomized thing. How Alicia works over there is you have a lineage. The lineage is supposed to boost your chances of getting the horse you want. However, there's still RNG affecting it, and you could get potentially random ass shitty ass coats, which can be really bad.
What the hell? Oh my God, no way.
And we don't want that in SSO because the difference between those two is Alicia is free, no money needed. SSO on the other hand, there's money involved. So if they have RNG, that would fuck up basically the whole game. And on top of that, it would just be very money hungry, because imagine if you have to pay $32 every single time with an RNG breeding system. That's bad. Then people also had issues of like what's gonna happen in terms of like crossbreeding, shit like that. The game dev then come on and said, and then basically in the sum up of her comment in the comment section claimed they're not gonna have RNG and it's not gonna be money hungry and shit, stuff like that. So we can only really take their word for it, but also considering how people have lost their trust in SSO, I highly doubt it. So let's just hope to God breeding does not turn into a piece of shit. I'm, for one, very happy they are finally considering breeding, because I do want to have breeding in the game. However, I just hope it's not money hungry and it's not RNG based. That's all I want. And I hope that they have a way to where you can get any coat or all the coats you want. And I hope there's that variety. Just please, just have variety, man. Next, we have the January game blog, which came in just in the nick of time on January 31st. This also serves for an indirect little response for another topic that we're going to talk at the very end of this section. And basically, it's gonna be over male players. And as you all know from the November game blog, they made a statement basically saying like, we are aiming for the body of the average girl. And now they're trying to backtrack saying they're aiming for like good fucking characters and shit. But the thing is, honey, we know how you are, SSO. Like, come on, man. It's just showing once again they're hiding away from the criticism they get shit over like this. Besides that, they of course went into what they have supposedly planned for 2023. And the following things they have mentioned that they're planning to work on is horse bonding, a new interface, inventory revamp, dressage, multiplayer opportunities, finding a way to finally revive the home stable customization feature that's been abandoned for centuries, and horse progression. Now, I just want to emphasis here. We did have some shit happen that mentioned some of this stuff either in spoilers, February of the month, or a little bit so far in March. So we're going to get to that probably around whenever it comes out, if it was in the spoilers or whenever it was mentioned in February or March. So first, let's get to the stuff that didn't cause a whole diabolic explosion. The dressage, multiplayer opportunities, and homestyle customization. SSO, I beg you, please do this. We've been asking for years to have stuff like this, so please work on this. This will breathe life into the content area of the game finally, so please have dressage and more multiplayer stuff, and of course home stable customization. You're really far behind, dude. Alright, now that's out of the way. Now the diabolic expulsion shit. The horse bonding and progression, and the new interface. So, the interface, horse bonding, and horse progression got beta tested by the ambassadors, employees, and game masters, and oh lord.
He needs some milk!
Yeah, this ain't it. If for whatever reason you think this interface is fine, please look at the backlash on this. First off, the pros. The horse bonding is really cute. Just mainly wish it was expanded on with doing activities with your horse, like figuring out its favorite tree, doing tricks with it, stuff like that. Because the dialogue stuff, while yes, it can also be cute, it just feels essentially more robotic. Next, I like the following mechanic. I think that's adorable. Following is always cute. It's just cute. And I also like the whistling mechanic. Something else that we've also been asking. I would say it's understandable for it to fade in, but to be honest, I feel like this could have also been better because literally even when you're not super far away from your horse, it still fades in. I just wish that for shorter distances, you have your horse walk up to you, like in other games like Black Desert Online, stuff like that. And for stuff where like you're very far away, that's when you have the horse fade in. It would make shit a lot easier in my opinion, and also it just look like more alive in my opinion. And finally, I like there's now more ways to get horse XP because you already know any other way to get a horse XP is good enough for me. Now the cons, which there's a lot of cons, as you could probably guess from my distaste on this. So my major gripe with this is how with everything open, as in if you open your inventory, your map, your chat, shit like that, it's just very cluttered. And it's not just cluttered, it also feels like it's very mobile game-like and not really an MMO. So I feel like this would fit more like the mobile version of SSO, in my opinion, just not PC. I just really don't think it's necessary for PC, in my opinion. Other issues I have with this is that they're reusing shit like gates and the special moves that we had from the beginning of buying a horse to then get locked behind a wall. It's not really a reward, it's just more like we're just gonna reuse shit for this gift. It's just nothing special. The chat and chat bubbles look like shit, in my opinion, with how there's the fade and the transparency. So it's just a no for me. Next, I don't really like how you can see your levels of yourself or your horse unless you hover over it. So I'd rather just have it how it was before so you can see what the fuck we're doing when we're getting shit. I also don't like the placement of the stuff on the UI. I don't like how the map has been moved to the upper right hand corner. I'm not really a huge fan of that, and I don't really like how it's just a bit of a mess with where the buttons are placed, because once again, it's very cluttered. And as we all know with SSO's track record, this just feels very like
Everyone's getting this, no talking back.
And the thing is, we already know there's just going to be no adjustments to this. So at the very least, please give us the option to adjust the layout of the UI. And finally, my bit of this is, please add color to this UI, because if you have this just as white being surrounded by some transparent stuff, no one's going to be able to see this shit in areas like Dino.
Reporting on the snow. I mean, it's in the streets. God damn.
So I think the best option is have some color. It would make this a whole lot easier in my opinion, and not this. It just feels too minimalistic, and when it's too minimalistic, it just ends up looking bland and it's not really bright and colorful. Overall, I feel like their attempt at this was shitty, mainly in the looks and the function of the horse progression, because some of this stuff is good, some of it is, but most of it is shitty. It's basically half-assed. Basically, it's really poorly executed, similarly like the character beta test. Honestly, this is just going to be start showing every time they do a damn beta test, it's just going to be showing like this. It just needs help. Honestly, what I think they should have done was just either revamp the horseshoe layout so you can keep the existing layout and just make it look more clean and not have this piece of shit. Or, better yet, just keep the old layout. In my opinion, the old layout's fine the way it is. Literally, if you wanted horse progression, just add a button onto the layout of old UI. It's not that hard. Honestly, y'all could probably do that. You've done it before with the journal, so you can do that with the horse progression shit. Also, next time SSO, for horse progression, just give us actual rewards that benefit us, not reuse shit. Judging from how big the backlash to this was, I hope to God they take account into feedback from this.
Know your fucking place, trash.
Now on to our final big historic topic of this month, the harassment of male players. As you all know, from my channel, I've talked about the importance of having male players acknowledged in this game and how SSO having an option for male players won't affect the story. Today we're going to be talking about the disgusting side of this, and that is the harassment male players get in SSO. So we're gonna start from the beginning, and that is with the harassment that Amelia Dreambell's boyfriend Wade got back in January. To sum it up, Wade was harassed with people assuming his sexuality, getting sexually harassed in his DMs, got called a predator, and got shat on for just liking SSO stuff in general, which got to the point where, because of this happening constantly, it pushed Wade away from even wanting to touch SSO. Amelia Dreambell then made a video called Games Don't Have a Gender, and right now it's not up anymore, but Amelia still had the file. So thank you, Melly, for giving me the file for this so I could show the points that I'm making with this video.
The only reason I bring this up is because a few days ago, I've talked about this before in a rant I made in September now. It's been a long time since I made it now. I said people just don't really respect me or my boyfriend's boundaries, especially on Instagram, and the other day he finally had enough of it. He was just finally fed up because he gets some really messed up DMs, just for the reason that he is a male and he plays this game.
In her video, she talked about how this harassment in male players like Wade need to stop, and it's not only been affecting Wade negatively, but also her negatively as well.
This isn't the trauma Olympics. You know, it's really not. This isn't a competition about who's harassed more. It's more so about human decency. Just because somebody is a man playing a game directed towards girls doesn't mean you should treat them any different. Games are not gender-based. They never will be. Games are not gender-oriented, and they never will be. They can be marketed towards a specific group. I work in marketing. I know how it works. That doesn't mean that they can't be a part of it. Just because a specific group is bullied doesn't mean another group can't be. I don't understand this whole narrative that just because you're a guy playing this game means you just have to suck it up and just roll with the punches, because that doesn't make much sense. The fact that Dennis Y. Storm even said he gets it and stuff, and he knows what it's like, that is very bothersome to me. Not on Dennis's part, just that he has to go through that. Because when you think about it, Dennis's platform is just him. His channel is all him. That's 30,000 people following him on YouTube. That's 13,000 people following him on Instagram. Can you imagine the DMs and the comments Dennis must get? My boyfriend doesn't even have his own channel. He has an Instagram with 300 followers now, and he would get messages on the daily like that. So can you even imagine what Dennis has to sift through in his DMs? Or just any other male that plays this game with a platform.
Wade had essentially reached his breaking point, and this event would then kickstart other male players to share their stories and for others to speak up on how important it is to have male players in the game. First, a viral post by Ray Lianing, aka Jake, was made, where Jake talked about how he's gotten harassed in his in-game mail with getting disgusting messages similar to what Wade and other male players have gotten. The messages varied from getting threats of wanting Jake removed, have an issue with his sexuality, falsely accuse him as a creep, claim he's a predator, question why he's playing a game that's supposedly for kids, and a stereotypical this game is for girls only shit. This shit is extremely inappropriate, and doing shit like this is fucking disrespectful. So with that being said, y'all, please don't harass people in this game because of their gender. It's not gonna make you the better person, it's just going to show you put down others. So please just don't do shit like this. This is not okay, and this shit needs to be spoken up more because this happens really often for a lot of people. Jake also talked about how because of getting these type of messages, it almost led him to disbanding his club Silver Bulls and leaving SSO at the time this post was made. But what kept him still in SSO was the friends he had and of course his club. Jake isn't the only one that received shit like this, and this would lead to also Dennis Y. Storm to speak up in his video discussing how male players are harassed and how SSO still ignores them.
So there's been two different cases with two different male players being harassed for being, for having a wiener, dude, and liking horses. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine that there's people in this world with wieners and they like horses? That's unbelievable. I know, shocking news. Who would have thought? In fact, I have a wiener and I like horses. Can you believe that? Yeah, I'm sorry. See, this is why I kind of need to step back a little bit. SoulSilver is by far inclusive, and to me it's very embarrassing that they even say they're inclusive because they're clearly not. And I feel like SoulSilver's slogan for this game defeats the whole purpose of making women feel like they're enough on their own. Because removing the issue, which in this case is the men, from the equation, defeats the very purpose of what SoulSilver is really trying to prove here. If women are enough without men, then why do you feel threatened by them, and then why do you remove them from the game entirely? Why are they a threat? Why do you feel so insecure that you have to to just make them feel like they don't even exist? SoulSilver is never saying anything about boys playing this game. SoulSilver is like treating us like we don't exist, which is like, whatever, you know what I mean? Like, I don't really care. But I might not care about the way SoulSilver treats me, but SoulSilver's indifference regarding men playing this game is affecting the way the players think about men playing this game, and that's why it's gotten so far, because SoulSilver is never talking about this issue, and so people think it's okay for them to treat boys that play this game the way that they do.
I think this video further shows the frustration on how SSO continues to ignore big issues like this and treat it as an inconvenience. And also, it just shows how frustrating it is that SSO is choosing to ignore this instead of addressing it. Because right now, SSO is just acting like everything's fine and carrying on like normal, when this shit happens a lot and it's never been spoken of by them and saying, hey, we should stop. They never actually tell us to stop. They just keep going, putting their head down and acting like it doesn't exist. Dennis talked about not only how SSO has been treating male players, but also his own experience, along with mentioning Wade's and Jake's stories as well.
I don't really talk about it in my channel, like almost at all, just because, again, I feel very alone. I feel like if I were to talk about it, about all the harassment I receive as a stray dude playing this game, I feel like I wouldn't be understood. I feel like I would be very judged by it. I don't know why. I feel like people just wouldn't get it, and they would like bash me for it. So then what I do is I just keep it for myself, and yeah. But now that, you know, someone else has experienced this, I feel more understood, to be honest. But I also feel very, very sad that these other two guys have to deal with this. I know how it is, dude, and I feel very sorry for them.
In turn, this also led to Eleanor Nightwalker also making a video on this issue and discuss how male players can be an SSO and not affect the story.
Whenever the topic of male characters is discussed, I see the same kind of arguments repeating themselves in the comment sections. But over time, I've come to realize that none of these arguments actually hold up. And I have yet to see an argument that will actually convince me that we shouldn't have male characters in the game. Because as of now, there is every reason to include them.
Eleanor also talked about how initially she believed male players would fuck up the story, but after seeing a lot of points being brought up on how this wouldn't happen, it opened her eyes on how male players wouldn't damage the story.
So probably the most commonly repeated argument that I've heard that even SSO use themselves is that the story is about a girl and the sisterhood of the Soul Riders, and therefore the main character must be a girl. Originally, this argument could be true, because originally the story was very much about a girl and her journey to become the 5th Soul Rider. However, since the beginning of the game, the story has changed a lot, like I've repeated before, and part of the story that has changed is the gender narrative. First of all, our character now uses they/them pronouns as a default instead of she/her. And in the opening credits, which is supposed to kick off the story and give the player an insight to what the story is about, instead of "Are you that girl?" it now says "What will you make of your stay here?" So according to the story narrative, this story is no longer about a girl, but just a person, a young person who has arrived in Jorvik and is now gonna become the 5th Soul Rider. If the gender of our character as the 5th Soul Rider is as crucial as they want it to seem like, then why are they changing the gender narrative? And additionally, the story itself opens up for a change in gender. Concord being reincarnated as a mare instead of the traditional stallion is proof that the legacy of the Soul Riders goes beyond gender. According to the story, it's not the gender that matters, but the soul. So according to the legacy, the Soul Riders could also technically be reborn as a male, even though that is less common.
She also managed to make points regarding the typical worrying about if it causes relationships, how it affects the environment of the game, and more, further emphasizing how having male and non-binary characters are just as important as female characters. Before I move on, I highly recommend seeing these videos I'm mentioning because they're very detailed and bring up a lot of points. So please go check out these people, y'all. And also, I do like to mention that at the time of this video was being made, there's also another video by Snoopy is My Horse, who also made a very detailed video on how very much so SSO could potentially be sexist because of shit like this, and so forth. Anyways, it also poses the question if, had SSO from the get-go had both gender options in the game, would this be any different? The reason why I'm mentioning this is because I believe because of SSO design to constantly push for this girls-only zone, it indirectly created a foundation of not just how their game is, but also how the community treats others based on gender. As you all know from my docuseries and every time I mention having male characters in a game in my videos and onward, I have constantly preached how having male characters is just as important and how they won't affect the story of the Soul Riders, the game environment, roles, and other various points. I now believe, because of how SSO's been tightly keeping close to the girl character only shit, it's now creating a constant frustration, as I kind of mentioned earlier, of how much they ignore players that aren't girls. It's shown in their copy-pasted responses with how dismissive they are whenever the question of male characters come up, or if someone questions why males aren't included. And the best example of that is the damn horse girl campaign from last year in August and September, because of how it not only stuck to the horse girl stereotype, but also how it didn't acknowledge or make players that aren't girls feel heard. SSO, y'all need to wake up on the reality of how gender is handled in video games nowadays and today. And instead of hiding in a bubble to have a girls-only utopia, they need to strive for a game that properly acknowledges and care about all genders and not just through little things in game. If SSO doesn't start break away from their stuck road of ignorance, it'll only lead to the game's further decline and break many players' trust in the process. I cannot stress enough how important this topic is, and the harassment of male players have been going on for way too long, to the point where people quit the game or don't want to interact with the community. So to close this section off, SSO, by continuing to stay silent and act like you acknowledge genders besides girls, is hypocritical, because of how with even today, male and non-binary players get treated like shit. If you actually start acknowledging and listening to everyone and not just girls, you can actually make a difference by expanding to more than just girls in the game and make people that aren't girls feel respected and heard. I'm not sure if it's because you want to continue to uphold onto toxic feminism ideals or pride in thinking you're empowering women this way, or thinking it's revolutionary to have only one gender in an MMO, but this is 2023, not 1723, 1823, or 1923. It's 2023. Video games have grown significantly in working towards better representation in their games, and not just protagonists, but also character creation. Stop treating your game like it's a single player game, and instead treat it like an MMO, and break down the walls you set up against your community, especially people that aren't girls. It's time to see that there's more than girls that love this game. Just like your target audience, boys and non-binary players should feel heard, loved, and respected, not shunned away and never heard from again. With that being said, y'all, we have officially finished January the month. It's already the beginning of the year, even though this video is coming out in March, and it's already chaotic. Come on, man.
What more do you want from me?
Anyways, as I mentioned in my little bit of an intro before I got into week 1, I did say I would go a little bit more in depth on what's been happening. So I had a social situation happen in January, and it ended really shitty, and it rocked me to the core where it really hurt me. And because of that, and also just a build-up from being really burnt out from the awards and my college workload of this semester, I decided that I'm going to take a few weeks off after February the month. It's mainly to get my mental space back together, and also just making sure I have my workload just perfectly fine and everything. So when I come back, my next video will probably be March the month, so keep an eye out for that, especially after February the month, because oh boy. I also just want to say thank you so much for the sweet messages, for those of you that left sweet messages, and also thank you to my friends that have been supporting me through it. It's been a rough, I think now just about over a month now, so really thank y'all so much. I can't thank y'all enough, so really thank you. With that being said, even though this was kind of ending on a bit of a sad note, I hope y'all enjoyed, and with that being said, I will see you all next time. Bye-bye!